In the heart of Abuja, where the sun shone a little too brightly and luxury cars hummed through the streets like background music, three best friends sat in a private lounge of a five-star restaurant, sipping on ridiculously expensive cocktails. They were the picture of wealth: gold-draped wrists, designer bags worth someone's annual salary, and freshly imported Brazilian wigs laid to perfection. If you saw them, you'd think life had personally written them a love letter. Meet Vanessa, Nicole, and Olivia, three inseparable friends who had known each other since their university days. By sheer coincidence or some twisted fate, they had all married insanely rich men who lived in Abuja. At first glance, they seemed to have it all: first-class vacations, designer wardrobes, black credit cards with no limits, and houses that could pass for royal palaces. But beneath the surface of this extravagant life, each woman harbored a secret, one they dared not whisper to even their closest friends. Vanessa, the most soft-spoken of the three, was married to Raymond, a billionaire businessman whose wealth could buy an entire state. If love had a price tag, hers was coated in blood diamonds and designer scars. To the world, she was the luckiest woman alive. To her mirror, she was a beautifully broken masterpiece. Her husband, generous with gifts, but even more generous with his fists, had made it clear her body was his punching bag, but the credit card was hers. And she stayed. Oh, she stayed. Because where was she going? Back to eating Indomie in a face me I face you apartment? Absolutely not. So she wore the sunglasses, smiled for the cameras, and hid her bruises beneath the luxury of high fashion. After all, who needed love when you had Louboutins? Then there was Nicole, married to Philip, a man who made tracking devices seem like child's play. Possessive? Check. Controlling? Double check. Serial cheater? Triple check. Philip was the kind of man who would step out with his side chick and still demand to know why Nicole was 5 minutes late from a spa appointment. Oh, he was cheating left, right, and center, but let her try to leave? Over my dead body, Nicole. You belong to me. And just like that, she was trapped. But let's be honest, was she really trying to leave? Because where exactly was she going? To a life without five-star vacations, diamonds, and endless shopping sprees. Please. Love was great, but financial security was better. So she smiled. She played her part, ignored the lipstick stains on his shirts, and swiped his card in revenge. And then there was Olivia, the walking advertisement for rich widowhood. While her friends were navigating the tornadoes disguised as marriages, Olivia was living the dream, a dream funded by her late husband's billions. No man to ask her, "Where are you?" No husband monitoring her spending. No stress, just vibes. "I swear, widowhood is the best thing that ever happened to me," Olivia declared, swirling her wineglass like she had just discovered the secret to eternal youth. Her friends forced a laugh. Oh, how they envied her. She had businesses in her name, properties in Banana Island, and access to wealth without the inconvenience of a breathing husband. What a life. At first, Vanessa and Nicole laughed off Olivia's constant gloating. But that night, as they lay in their cold beds beside their controlling husbands, the thought haunted them. What if they could be free too? They weren't saying they wanted their husbands dead, of course not. Or were they? But the thought of a life with no controlling men, no questions, no restrictions, just money and freedom. It was tempting, too tempting. And as the night deepened in Abuja, two women lay awake in their luxury beds, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Olivia was truly lucky, or just ahead of them in the game. Olivia sipped her wine slowly, her red lips curling into a knowing smile. Vanessa and Nicole exchanged glances. Olivia chuckled. "Relax," she murmured, tilting her head. "You don't have to say a word. I already see the answer in your eyes." Silence. Then, finally, Vanessa's voice came out in a whisper. How did you do it?" Olivia sighed dramatically, swirling her drink. "My dear, I didn't do anything." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Nature did it for me." Nicole's eyes narrowed. "You mean?" Olivia smirked. "Yes, darling. A terrible car accident. The brakes failed. Tragic, really." Vanessa and Nicole stiffened. Olivia leaned back, her gold bracelets jingling as she stretched her arms. But you see, in your case, nature might need a little push. Her voice dropped to a whisper, eyes gleaming like a predator about to strike. Nicole's heart pounded. And how exactly do we give nature a push? Olivia's lips curled into a slow, wicked grin. My dear sisters, the answer is simple. Poison. Nicole inhaled sharply. Vanessa swallowed hard. Poison? Vanessa whispered. Olivia nodded like she was suggesting a harmless cooking recipe. Quick, clean, no stress. She shrugged, taking another sip of her wine. Just a little seasoning in their food or drink, a few tears for the performance, and boom, freedom. Nicole's hands shook slightly as she clutched her glass. And nobody will suspect? Olivia laughed. A low, sultry laugh that sent chills down their spines. Oh, darling, we are women. We know how to cry when necessary. Silence. Then, Vanessa exhaled, her mind racing. It sounded so easy. A few drops of something extra in his whiskey. A little sprinkle in his food. A dramatic scream. A few designer black dresses for the funeral. And then, unlimited access to wealth. No more bruises, no more permission slips, no more questions. Nicole looked at Vanessa. Vanessa looked at Nicole. Then slowly Nicole nodded. I think I'm ready. Vanessa hesitated for a split second. Then she looked at Olivia, sitting there, free, wealthy, and untouchable. Her bruises ached. Her pride burned. Her soul screamed for freedom. She met Olivia's eyes and said the words that would change her life forever. I'm in. Olivia grinned, lifting her glass. Welcome to the club, my dear sisters. And just like that, the Rich Widows Club was born. The streets of Abusha never slept. But that night, two women lay awake. Not in fear, not in regret, but in anticipation. Their husbands, who had spent years controlling them, cheating, and turning their lives into expensive prisons, were about to take their final breaths. Leonard had come home, angrier than usual, complaining about a deal gone wrong. And like a trained boxer, he used her as a punching bag to release his frustration. One punch, then another, and another. She crashed against the glass table, her ribs screaming in agony, her vision blurry. And then, as quickly as the storm started, it ended. Leonard sighed, wiping his knuckles like he had just finished a workout. Go get me a drink, he muttered, collapsing onto the couch. Vanessa didn't move immediately. Her ears were ringing, her skin was on fire. But her mind? Crystal clear. She staggered to the kitchen, her hands shaking, but not from fear. This was it. Reaching for his favorite whiskey, she poured a glass and added a special ingredient, one that ensured he would never lift his hands against her again. When she walked back to him, her face was still wet with tears, her lips swollen from his last slap, but her hands steady. Here, she whispered. He grabbed the glass without so much as a glance at her face and gulped it down. 1 sip, 2 sips, 3. Then, his body reacted. His throat tightened, his chest convulsed. His hands clutched at his neck, his eyes wild with confusion. Vanessa, what? She simply watched as the great, powerful Leonard fell from his throne, gasping for air on the marble floors he had once made her clean with her tears. She kneeled beside him, stroking his hair like a grieving wife. Shh, baby. Just breathe, she whispered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Not so fun when the pain is yours, huh? His eyes rolled back, his body convulsed one last time, and then silence. Vanessa exhaled, adjusted her diamond bracelet, and then she screamed. A scream so loud, so convincing, that the neighbors came running. And just like that, the billionaire was dead, and his grieving widow was born. Nicole had seen a lot in her marriage, but that night, she saw something that broke whatever was left of her tolerance. Her husband, Frederick, had cheated on her for years, and not even discreetly. But this time, he didn't even bother hiding the evidence. The used condom sat in the trash, staring at her like an insult, like a mockery of the vows they took, like a reminder that she was nothing more than an expensive accessory in his life. Her fingers clenched into fists. Her cheating, controlling, overpossessive husband had humiliated her for the last time. And so, she did what any good wife would do. She cooked him dinner. His favorite meal, grilled chicken and fried rice, served on his grandmother's vintage china plates. "Wow," he smirked, sitting at the dining table like a king expecting to be served. "Trying to make up for your attitude lately?" Nicole smiled, pouring him a glass of wine. "Oh, darling," she purred, taking a seat opposite him. "You deserve the best." She watched him eat, her heart pounding in her chest, but not with nerves, with satisfaction. Because in that rice, hidden beneath the perfect seasoning and golden brown chicken skin, was freedom. 5-star rated, lab-tested, death-guaranteed poison. The cheater ate happily, completely oblivious. But soon, the smile faded. His throat tightened. His chest heaved. He dropped the fork. "Nicole, I can't." He gasped, his hands clawing at his throat. She leaned forward, her elbows resting elegantly on the table, her manicured nails tapping against her wine glass. "Oh no," she murmured, mock concern filling her eyes. "Is something wrong, honey?" Frederick fell to the floor, choking, wheezing, his face turning purple. "And Nicole?" She sighed dramatically. "You should have been more careful where you put your condoms," she said sweetly, watching as his final breath escaped. Then, just like Vanessa, she let out the performance of a lifetime. A blood-curdling scream that had the staff and neighbors rushing in. And there she was, cradling his lifeless body like a heartbroken widow. Tears in her eyes, pain in her voice. But deep inside, relief. The funerals were grand, black designer dresses, expensive tears, and crocodile sobs. Everyone pitied the young, beautiful widows who had lost their beloved husbands. And then, just like that, the two women were free. No more control, no more questions, no more restrictions. Just money, power, and passports ready for the next flight. At an exclusive rooftop bar, they met with Olivia, who smirked as she raised her glass in a toast. "To freedom," she declared. Vanessa and Nicole clinked glasses, their lips curling into wicked smiles. Vanessa smirked. "First stop, the Maldives." Nicole laughed. "I was thinking Paris." But life had other plans. Life had a funny way of laughing in people's faces. Just when Vanessa and Nicole thought they had it all, freedom, wealth, power, reality slapped them back to their senses. Because the thing about perfect crimes, they were never really perfect. Vanessa had practiced her performance to perfection. The grieving widow, the broken woman who had lost the love of her life. She had worn the best black dresses, sobbed into silk handkerchiefs, and received endless pity from friends and business associates. But the thing about dead billionaires, people asked questions, and in this case, too many questions. It started with whispers, a few raised eyebrows, hushed conversations behind her back. Then, suddenly, her late husband's family hired private investigators. Because apparently, a healthy, strong man dropping dead in his own home after one drink didn't sit right with them. Vanessa had ignored it at first, laughing at the idea that anyone could suspect her. But then, one morning, her gates swung open, and uniformed men stormed in like a scene from a bad Nollywood movie. "Madam Vanessa, you are under arrest for the murder of your husband." Her champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering into a million pieces, just like her future. Poison. That's what the toxicology report said. And just like that, the glamorous, wealthy widow became a prisoner in a designer dress. As they snapped handcuffs onto her perfectly manicured wrists, Vanessa's mind raced. This wasn't how the script was supposed to end. She was supposed to be in the Maldives, sipping margaritas, not sitting in the back of a police van heading straight for a cold, dark prison cell. Nicole had planned her future well. After all, She had been the legal wife, the one who had stood by Frederick's side, smiled at events, endured the humiliations and insults while he ran around chasing every woman in Abuja. So, naturally, she expected to inherit everything. She had even pictured it, the mansions, the businesses, the fat bank accounts. But life had different plans. Because at the reading of the will, instead of hearing her name being called for properties, lands, and accounts, she heard something else. Something that made her blood turn cold. All assets and wealth are to be transferred to his son, Elijah. Nicole blinked. Elijah? Which Elijah? The lawyer cleared his throat. His son, from a previous relationship. A long silence. Then, reality hit her like a moving train. Frederick, her beloved late husband, the serial cheater, the one who treated her like property, had left everything to a child from one of his baby mamas. A child she didn't even know existed. Nicole's mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. She looked around the office, waiting for someone to jump out and say it was a joke, but it was real. Too real. And the baby mama? Oh, she was right there in the office, smiling like she had just won the lottery, which technically she had. Nicole could barely breathe. After everything, after all she endured, she got nothing. She stormed out of the office, her heels clicking violently against the floor, her chest tight with rage. She had killed for freedom, only to end up with nothing but shame. And where was Olivia, living her best life? She had done the bare minimum, whispered an idea, planted the seed, and watched it grow. She never lifted a finger, never did the dirty work. She just sat back, sipped expensive wine, and watched as her dear sisters ruined their own lives. Vanessa was rotting in prison. Nicole was broke, humiliated, and cast aside. And Olivia? Olivia was on a first-class flight to Dubai, glass of champagne in hand, smirking at the headlines. The courtroom was packed. Every seat taken, every eye locked onto Vanessa, the widow-turned-murder suspect. Cameras flashed, journalists scribbled furiously. Social media was on fire. From billionaire's wife to accused killer, the trial of the year. Vanessa sat stiffly in the defendant's chair, her once perfectly laid wig now dull and lifeless, her expensive skin now dry from stress. She had traded her designer dresses for a dull, oversized prison uniform. Not exactly the look she had in mind for her rich widow era. Her lawyer was sweating bullets, trying to fight back against the mountain of evidence stacked against her. The toxicology report? Deadly. The poison found in her kitchen? Incriminating. Her sudden inheritance? Suspicious. Her late husband's family had hired the best legal team money could buy, and they came with receipts. Your Honor, the prosecutor's voice rang out, cold and sharp. This was no accident. This was premeditated murder. Vanessa felt her chest tighten. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She had dreamed of vacations, endless shopping sprees, freedom, not court dates, criminal charges, and a future behind bars. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, her former friends had abandoned her. Olivia? Nowhere to be found. Nicole? Too busy drowning in her own problems. The judge's voice cut through her thoughts. This court finds the defendant, Vanessa Williams, guilty of murder. Her heart stopped. Sentenced to 25 years in prison. The gasp from the courtroom was deafening. Vanessa's vision blurred. She had lost everything. As the guards grabbed her arms to escort her out, the only thing she could think of was one name. Olivia. The woman who had planted the idea. The woman who had walked away untouched, sipping champagne in Dubai, while she rotted in prison. Her teeth clenched, her nails dug into her palms. If she ever got out, Olivia would pay. It started with a phone call, then a lawyer's letter. Then, before she could even process it, she was watching movers carry out furniture from her own home. And the final blow? Standing in her own living room while Frederick's son, Elijah, and his mother walked in like the rightful owners. Nicole's jaw clenched. "This is my house," she said through gritted teeth. The baby mama, let's call her Linda, smiled, crossing her arms. "No, sweetie," Linda purred. It was your house. Nicole's fingers curled into fists. You think you can just come in here and take everything? Linda's smile widened. Honey, we already did. Nicole's blood boiled. She turned to Elijah, her late husband's son, barely 13, standing beside his mother, already claiming what should have been hers. Frederick had left everything to him. And she? Nothing. Not even a guest house to her name. The security guards arrived next. Linda sighed dramatically. Please escort Mrs. Nicole out. She doesn't live here anymore. Nicole's heart sank. She turned one last time, expecting someone to say this was a mistake. But it wasn't. This was real. With nothing but the clothes on her back and a bag of belongings, Nicole stepped out of the house she once called home. The gates shut behind her, and just like that, the rich widow had become homeless. Where could she go? Her high society friends? Gone. The people who used to admire her? Silent. Olivia? Vanished. She had no choice. She called a taxi. Where to, madam? The driver asked. Nicole swallowed her pride, her eyes burning with unshed tears. Ibadan. The same place she had once mocked and abandoned when she married Frederick. The city she had sworn never to return to. And now? It was the only place left. A few business deals falling through, some investors pulling out, a few red flags that she ignored, thinking they were just temporary setbacks. But soon, the warnings became disasters. One by one, her businesses collapsed. Her luxury fashion line, bankruptcy. Her real estate empire, crashed under legal battles. Her secret investments, frozen due to fraud investigations. It was like karma had been waiting in the shadows, sharpening its claws, preparing for the perfect moment to strike. Within months, Olivia went from a multimillionaire to a woman dodging debt collectors. Her fancy apartments? Gone. Her fleet of luxury cars? Repossessed. Her high society friends? Nowhere to be found. She had played everyone. Now, life was playing her. And for the first time in her life, Olivia felt something she never thought she would. Fear. When people fall from grace, they have two choices. Start over humbly or dig deeper into darkness. And Olivia? She was never the humble type. With her wealth crumbling and no legitimate way to keep up her extravagant lifestyle, she turned to the one thing she once looked down on. Drug trafficking. Cocaine. Pure, uncut, fast money cocaine. It started small. A few packages here and there. A few business trips where she just carried a little something extra in her luggage. Then, before she knew it, she was in too deep. She had connections with dangerous people. She was flying in and out of countries, transporting more than just designer bags. She had traded boardroom meetings for back alley deals. But the thing about fast money? It burns quickly, and Olivia had made one mistake too many. It was supposed to be a simple job. Fly into London, deliver a package, collect a ridiculous amount of cash, and disappear. She had done it before. But this time, someone was waiting for her. As soon as she stepped off the plane at Heathrow Airport, rolling her designer suitcase filled with high-grade cocaine, she barely made it past immigration before, "Madam, step aside." Her heart froze. The security officers didn't smile, didn't blink, didn't waste time. Within minutes, her bags were ripped open, exposing her dirty secret to the world. And just like that, Olivia was handcuffed in front of hundreds of onlookers, her once glamorous life reduced to a news headline. Nigerian socialite arrested in drug trafficking scandal. She was paraded on TV, her mugshot plastered all over social media. The same people who had once envied her now mocked her downfall. She had been the untouchable queen. Now, she was just another criminal facing a lifetime in a foreign prison. At the end of it all, what did Olivia gain? She had betrayed her friends, manipulated people, killed without lifting a finger. And for what? To end up broke, alone, and facing decades behind bars. Because here's the truth. Money gained through evil never lasts. You can deceive people, but you can't escape karma. If you manipulate others for your own gain, one day, you'll have no one left. Olivia thought she was the smartest, the sharpest, the one who got away. But in the end, she was just another fool who believed lies never catch up. And as she sat in her prison cell, staring at the cold gray walls, she realized she had played everyone, but in the end, she had played herself. And oh, don't forget to subscribe for more juicy stories, because trust me, there's always another twist waiting.